Olá, pessoal. A gente está aqui em São Paulo, no Memorial da América Latina, e a gente vai fazer uma entrevista muito especial para conteúdo da São Paulo, em parceria com o TOCA UOL. Fui convidado para poder trocar uma ideia com a minha amiga Sarah Williams, que representa o Palestine Music Expo, que é uma conferência de música que acontece no território ocupado, no Palestina. Eu tive a honra de ir na primeira edição e eu e a Sarah fazendo parte de um grupo chamado In Place of War. E a Sarah vai poder falar um pouquinho. Eu vou no meu parco inglês aqui falar com ela em inglês. So I was explaining to people a little bit of the context and saying that I will speak with you with my poor English, but let's try.
Yeah, your English is perfect.
No problem.
The vibe is good. I perfectly understand your meaning.
Okay. So, Sarah Williams, can you talk a little bit about you first? We want to know about you.
So first of all, I'd actually like to say thank you for inviting me here to Sim Sao Paulo, which is an amazing event. So I am a British music lawyer. I have been an independent music lawyer for quite a long time, but I had a sort of detour in my career in my 40s when I got fed up of the music business and I didn't feel that it represented me. I felt like I wasn't with my tribe. I wanted to do something that felt more meaningful, and I'd become involved in environmental issues and local politics. So I decided to requalify, and I thought I'm going to be a human rights lawyer. So I went and did a master's in international law. But then I had this opportunity to do a class with this professor out of the department, and it was on the international relations of the Middle East. And I became so fascinated by this. And I realized too that in kind of my small scale political life, I was much more of a bridge builder than I was a fighter. And so I decided I wanted to work in international conflict resolution. So anyway, long story short, I ended up getting a scholarship to go and study in America at UC Berkeley. And as part of that course, I had to go and do some work in the field. And I went with a very small NGO and did research in the West Bank. I'd always sort of still maintained this interest in what was going on, and I had this opportunity to go stay in East Jerusalem. It was during the Second Intifada, towards the end. Jerusalem was absolutely dead. And I went into the West Bank.
What year was that?
That was 2004.
Okay.
So I was there on my own. I was kind of researching how the Israelis were using planning law and demolitions as a tool of the occupation. And so it just absolutely connected me to the issues, the people. I went there really as somebody who felt that they were going to be in some kind of mediation role in the future. But when you see the injustice of it, the reality of that injustice, you realize there is no sitting down and making some nice negotiation. You have to balance the power. You have to do something to help. So I became very committed to supporting Palestinians against the oppression that they were suffering. And so I became...
You lived there for a while?
I was just there for a few weeks doing some research. But then on the back of that, I ended up getting involved with the organization that I was there representing, and so became much more deeply involved in the issues and, struggles to try and prevent homes from being demolished, or trying to protect a school in the Jordan Valley from being demolished. So just became much more deeply involved. And so I was still in that phase of my life, but then I ended up, as John Lennon said, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. And then I ended up having a child and becoming a single parent. And then I couldn't really be doing this anymore because I wasn't properly established in that world. And I needed to provide and be geographically stable. So I came back and became a music lawyer again and felt really sad about that for a while. But then through friends, I heard about this project that was starting called Palestine Music Expo, and I was introduced to somebody, and I immediately said, yes, what can I do to help? I am in, whatever you need.
Okay.
So
it's we're gonna go through Palestine Music Expo, but I want to get a little bit more of context. Before everything, can you say for us the difference of East Bank and the Palestine occupied territories?
well, so in what you've basically got is, you know, the establishment of Israel in 1948 and the expulsion of many Palestinians, and they mainly settled in the West Bank, in Gaza, and then in East Jerusalem, and then many were left and had to leave and were in. Over time, the land that was occupied by Israel became bigger and bigger, and the Palestinians were put in smaller and smaller pieces of land.
Yes.
So when I went in 2004, and when you went in 2019, basically what you've got is the West Bank, which is carved up into 3 different areas. Area A, which is under Palestinian security control, which is small. Area B, which is under joint security control, which basically means Israeli security control. And then the biggest part of the West Bank is still under Israeli security control, with all of the checkpoints and all of the things that make it impossible.
And Ramallah is in where?
Ramallah is in the West Bank.
West Bank.
In Area A, which is the Palestinian security. So it's unusual in that in Ramallah you actually do feel you were in a predominantly Palestinian, you know, controlled area. So you've got that. Then you've got Gaza in a different part of the territory, which is of course a small strip of land by the sea that is under a blockade.
There's the near the beaches. The name of the other city.
Rafah, are you thinking? Rafah, yeah, there's Gaza City and Rafah. And then you've got East Jerusalem, which again is theoretically under Palestinian control, but actually isn't. And so you've still got a lot of settlement building that's been going on and on and on in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank. So more and more settlers going in, pushing Palestinians off more and more land. So you've got the West Bank shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
So, and you got involved in the Palestine. So you come back to work with the music business again. Got sick of it, but then you have the opportunity of joining this project, which is Palestine Music Expo.
Yes.
Is Palestine Music Expo, and what's the difference of Palestine Music Expo and In Place of War? You're part of In Place of War too. Can you explain?
Well, In Place of War, I mean, I'm sort of more of a supporter of In Place of War. Yeah. I mean, I know that I basically, I mean, I'm sure most of us feel like this. If I've got skills they can use, they're an amazing organisation, and I will always give them my skills if they need legal contracts drafting or anything like that. There. And In Place of War has been involved in Palestine Music Expo with the building the studio and the work. Exactly. So there's some overlap, but I think, you know, In Place of War is about creating cultural projects in zones of conflict. Palestine Music Expo had a different mission, really, initially.
It's a music conference, it's a party.
It is a party, but the idea is to bring the international music industry into the West Bank to see the talent that's there, to understand what's happening because you're being taken on tours, to see places that you can really only understand if you are actually seeing it with your own eyes, to do networking, to do panels, and to really help Palestinian musicians be connected to the wider music industry because they're so cut off. And it's really interesting when you kind of talk to some of those that have actually performed at Palestine Music Expo, and they tell you how hard it was to get the band to the stage, because they had to pay a fortune to go in taxis and different routes because they can't go across checkpoints, and maybe the road would be closed and they wouldn't be able to perform, and the difficulties that you come to learn about. But on the day, what you're seeing, and you've been there, is this really fantastic talent. It's a party, it's amazing talent, and the real benefit of it is it's a proper exchange between the internationals that go in there and the Palestinians, and the set of relationships starts to develop that then can be used by those sort of Palestinian musicians or Palestinians who'd like to be in the music industry to kind of help them develop their career. We also very much had the objective of trying to help support the development of the music industry within Palestine, but I can't say that we've done very much to achieve that yet, because the conditions on the ground are really changeable and really difficult. So
and it's kind of worse than ever now.
Yes, it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, we did the first expo in 2017, which you came to, and I'd love to know what your perceptions were. And we did 2018 and 2019, and the energy and hope and enthusiasm in those events was really extraordinary. But we couldn't do it the next 2 years because of COVID. And then the next 2 years, we were planning to do the Music Expo, and we had to cancel it, not because, it was the security situation, and it wasn't actually because of the threat from the Israelis. That's always there. It was actually because within Palestinian society, things had started to change. The levels of frustration were so great that actually a kind of really strong strand of very conservative, religious thinking that hadn't been inside Palestine, within the Palestinian community itself, that didn't like anything that was LGBTQ, they didn't like anything they saw as overtly sexual, they didn't like anything, So there was threats against culture.
So the problem is not just from abroad, but inside of the territory as well.
Inside the territory, yes, because I think that in situations where, if you're a Palestinian community, where everything has let you down, you have the worst leadership, the international community is doing nothing, you're suffering every day, things are getting worse and worse. What do you turn to? You turn to somebody that's offering you a different way to think about it. And I think that kind of very hardcore, Islamic identity then becomes something that perhaps offers something. So that as a consequence of that, there were a lot of attacks on culture, not just PMX. There were attacks on theatre productions and things. So it became an environment where it was very difficult for certain artists to express themselves, whether that was actors or writers or whatever. So it became a really more dangerous environment. So we were told 2 years running that we couldn't do it because we wouldn't be able to guarantee the security of the internationals that we took in. So then those 2 years we weren't able to do PMX. And then of course the attack on Gaza. And so it's been really difficult. We haven't been able to work in the same way that we were able to before. And so in the last few months, we've just been trying to help the Gazan musicians that have escaped from Gaza into Cairo. And so we've been working with musicians in Cairo to try and get them instruments, music therapy, opportunities to play.
To work.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just trying to flex and be able to do that.
In the first year of PMX, who were the supporters? There's a group of musicians, there's a group of productions. Who finances the initiative? You have this information.
Yes. So initially we got finance, I think, from a few private individuals. We did a crowdfunder.
There's a guy from Glastonbury Festival as well.
Yeah. I mean, and there's quite a lot of different supporters from festivals and from labels and digital services. And so we had a little bit of sponsorship. It was mainly crowdfunding and private donations in the first year. Then we had a lot of support for the next 2 years from the German government, who at the time believed that supporting culture was a form of economic development. And they were really helpful. And then, I don't know what happened. There was a change of government or a change of policy, but that money went away. And so we then had to kind of fall back again on crowdfunding. So, you know, we're getting money here and there from like cultural institutions a little bit, you know, but we haven't established a kind of permanent source of funding. And it's a bit of a challenge for us because we don't have people that work for PMX on a regular. You know, we're still a group of committed volunteers.
Yes.
And so we have really good ideas and we have good connections, but we don't have good time. We don't have much time. So we do have Palestinians on the ground that we work with, and we are a group of Palestinians and internationals working together. But, you know, there are many challenges with an organization like us.
I can understand that. And, but it's important, what do you think, these kind of initiatives, it should be more of these kind of initiatives going on right now, for the Palestinian people. And
yeah, well, I'm sure you agree with me on this, but culture is at the heart of the identity of any people. And when their presence, their physical presence is under threat, when there's, you know, ethnic cleansing being suggested by the President of the United States, when, you know, when the situation is so difficult, that is when culture becomes more important than anything, because you can never take away a person's culture. But at the same time, you can make it very difficult for them to enjoy their culture or for other people to understand their culture.
they don't have words to
They don't have, and they need that support. They need people to kind of help them, you know, find channels to reach out to the international, or to support artists coming up within the community who can then go out and become ambassadors. And actually, that is definitely one thing that's happened from Palestine Music Expo, because we had a whole range of musicians that got agents, record deals, distribution deals, you know, publishing deals. Some of those musicians are doing really well, and they are proud Palestinians representing their culture more sort of actively on the international stage. And all of those things really matter, because they give hope, they bring back their own expertise, their own connections, their own understandings, their own community, and it kind of grows out from there. But I think that if we're supporting anything right now, we should be supporting culture.
Yes.
Because that is resistance, isn't it?
And of course, everyone is looking for that at one, people that are humanist, and they're looking, they want to help other people. And I'm often scrolling and see connections that I made in Palestine of international friends, and there's been lots of hip hop and music being done right now in Palestine, even in these times of war. And it's really, it's sad. It makes me sad because I see the destruction of a place that I was there, so it was really beautiful. But it's kind of brings me some hope that see there's teenagers doing hip hop and working with music. So I agree with you. It's the time that we need to support.
We do.
Of course, they need medicines, they need food, they need housing.
But that's not our work, is it?
Yes.
We're people that can help with culture.
Yes.
We can't help with medicines quite so we can fundraise, but you know, we should do what we can do. Coming from, you know, use all of that energy and all of the connections that we have. Can I ask you a question? You know, what was your experience of going to PMX and seeing Palestine, occupied Palestine, from the inside?
Uh,
Did you know much about it when you went?
A little bit. Of course, I studied, I have the idea,
Yeah.
and I know about the conflict, I know about the difficulty, but one thing that was the first impact was when you say, never say on the border of it, because we fly to Tel Aviv. Never told anyone on the official that you're going to visit Palestine. So in the beginning, you when you go there, you have to lie to the Israeli.
Yeah, it's not a nice experience.
No, I should be locked down. Should be in jail if they know that, or send me back to Brazil. If it's good, so you kind of do everything illegal to go in, and it was crazy because you get in the airport, then you pay a taxi that you guys arranged to me, then you get the taxi, go all the way to one border, I think on the class C, the first checkpoint. Then we go to another checkpoint, then we stop in a gas station. And then we get to the gas station, then I have to pay in cash a Palestinian driver.
Yeah.
Then it go into the...
Yeah, change your car,
Change your car. And the Palestinian driver doesn't speak English or Portuguese, and he drives for about 1.5 hours inside Palestine. And that trip was really terrifying because it's almost everything is destroyed. I think now it's even worse. But then it starts to feel like you coming for a medium-sized Brazilian city. Then you see it's beautiful city, like I say a Brazilian city like Uberlândia or Uberaba or Cuiabá, which is a big city. It's Ramallah, and then you got there, and people were so friendly and so enthusiastic about have a Brazilian music producer there, and we will talk about the experience of Brazil. I think is closer for them than the experience of the UK producers or the American producers. So they got really excited to have a Brazilian producer there, and there was a friend, Sam from Zimbabwe was there as well. So we got immediate connection. And you know, the people in Palestine, they really look Brazilians. They really look Brazilian. We have, I think because Brazilian is all blend, and there's a lot of Arabic blended in Brazil, so it was really familiar for me. So the first day, the first impact was amazing. So we have excellent Palestinian food and etc. And there's the shows at night, and I love the artists, I love the hip hop that they're doing there, the regional music they're doing there. But often in its days, as I'm part of In Place of War, so we visit the refugee camps, we visit the checkpoints, and we build studios and do lectures for the local musicians and production. And then they asked, we got engaged with the people there, and we visit their homes and their cities and the refugee camp, and that was terrifying. Because one thing that I noticed that almost made me cry now is that there wasn't people from my age. It was about 10 years ago. So I was 35, and people were younger than 25 or older. And then we realized why there wasn't people from my age is that most of them run away or got killed. And so it kind of amazing, but scary at the same time, but the group that we are in place of work, we are kind of used to deal with this conflict and poor regions. And we're kind of, but even now is really touching for me.
Did you have the experience that I had of going around the refugee camp with that hip hop group?
Yes.
That was one of the most powerful musical experiences I've had. So we were.
You were. I was
Yeah.
there with you.
So we went round the refugee camp.
Yeah.
And we were shown round by these guys that live there, and you know it's a privilege to be allowed in. And at first they say don't take any photographs.
Yes.
And then they reach a point where it's a bit more comfortable and you can take some photographs. But they're showing you the pictures of their friends who've been killed on the walls, and they're explaining some of the things that they've had to deal with. And you're talking to young men that have been in prison for 8 months and have been traumatized
and he's
by
19 years old or something like that, or
something
16.
like this. And I remember one of the guys from the group talking about their friend and what had happened to their friend in front of a picture of their friend. And I could see the kind of trauma in him as he was telling the story. And we were walking round, and it took him a while for all of that in his body to kind of calm down. And then
he started to walk fast, you remember?
Yeah, but then we ended up in their studio, which was like the crappiest little room with like hardly any equipment. But then they started performing for us in this space that's under an undertaker's, and it was so raw and so powerful.
I will talk in Portuguese just to explain the studio. Era barraco todo de cimento, com 2 microfones, uma mesa de som e amplificador. E os caras tocaram pra gente, nós éramos umas 10 pessoas, como se fosse o show mais foda que eles fizeram na vida. I was telling that was like a really trash place with 2 mics and a soundboard and 1 sound box, and they performers like us they were in a stadium.
It was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. Yeah. And then I think one of the things that was so interesting to me in that experience too was, if you remember, one of them at some point he said he was talking about how the life in the refugee camp, it's a really different experience for them than some of the other Palestinians we met who come from more educated, wealthier families, so they're kind of
university or
exactly, and they can afford instruments, and so they are often more kind of typically nationalistic in their idea of the sort of Palestinian identity, and the guys in the refugee camps feel differently. And I remember him saying, he said, I do not care about the flag. He said, the only time that he said in the refugee camps, there's 2 gangs, and I think he was talking about Hamas and Fatah, and he said, and the only time they'll care about me is when I'm dead, and they're fighting about which flag to put on my coffin. He said, I do not care about the flag, I do not care about the Palestinian state. So I don't relate to Yasser Arafat, I relate to Malcolm X. I relate to Che Guevara. I relate to people who are fighting for oppressed people. I was like,
one thing that
wow.
was really impressed me is the guy that hosted us were in the heart of the MST movement, the Brazilian.
Is that right?
Yes, I have on that. The guy that was driving.
Oh yeah. I remember him.
He was wearing the MST hat, and he said, "Ah, you Brazil? I studied a lot about the MST movement, and I know Lula, and I know Che. It was kind of cool,
Yeah.
They were excited about it, and that was it, because they're not just Palestinian, they were working class, poor Palestinians hip hop group.
Yeah.
And one thing that killed me the most is the one that said, you saw that building over there, they're all destroyed? It's the mother's house of that guy on the wall. He was 16 years old. He was caught and killed
Yeah.
and then they bomb their
Yeah.
mother's house.
Yeah.
So this kind of situation is inexplicable.
I know.
I don't know how.
You can't until you're there. You don't really understand this kind of small details
It's so violent.
of this.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to a village, not when you were there, but we went to a village somewhere up near Nablus, and in this house, we passed this house, the whole of the downstairs of the house was full of concrete. The family were living upstairs, and they said this is one of the punishments they do. If one of the young men in the house is found guilty of throwing stones or something like this, and they're put in detention, then they come in. I mean, not all the time, it's just one of the nasty things they did, and fill the ground of the house with concrete so they can't live in the house.
I don't know if that's true, but I heard that the studio we built was concreted. Is that true?
No,
No.
I don't think that's true. No. But it was in the refugee camp, which the whole, I mean, the army. I was there recently. The army, the IDF go in regularly. You know, there's people get shot. There's all sorts of things happen there all the time. It's and you just to see the physical presence of the wall, to see the settlements that are being built by the Israeli Jewish settlers. I think when you think of settlement, you think of something like rural farmland. You don't think of huge sort of towns that take the water resources, that occupy the most strategically beneficial places. And so you as a Palestinian, you're just seeing bit by bit this, you're being pushed into a smaller and a smaller space.
The wall is really, really, really oppressive.
It's really oppressive.
Yeah, it's really dark. The night is dark. But yeah, I think we have to use this kind of opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about some good things that PMX did for the musicians. You were showing me the movie of my first visit, and there was an artist that I fall in love. It's not
Rasha Nahas.
Rasha Nahas, and we invited her to play in São Paulo in 2019. I think 2 years. She came here.
Amazing.
She played in São Paulo. Then she visited and played Bananada, the festival that I used to produce. So there is this music scene going on there. You have more examples like...
Absolutely, yeah. So here's a really interesting example. There's a queer Palestinian artist called Bashar Murad from East Jerusalem. So he played twice at Palestine Music Expo. The second time he played, it was a real shock for some of the audience. He kind of comes out wearing a white suit with gold wings and a bride's veil, and just like...
You have images of it?
I do.
Yeah,
it was
cool.
Amazing.
We have to put this on.
But I was actually watching the first PMX. He's wearing like quite dark, normal clothes, and then by PMX 3, he's expressing himself in a much more... I think maybe, I mean, I don't know whether that's down to us or not, but we've created an environment for that. Anyway, so Bashar, at the third PMX, there's a guy there who's a friend of mine who has a label in the UAE, he called Pop Arabia, and he was like, really liked what Bashar was doing, and he was like, this guy's not just a really good artist, what he's doing is very culturally and politically important. So he was just starting his label. He already had a publishing company, and he made Bashar his first artist on the label. And so he got his first kind of like big commercial release on the back of PMX. Now, he didn't go on to release many more with that label, but then through PMX, he got connected to an Icelandic band called Hitari, who are there in Israel to play at the Eurovision Song Contest. So I think that, one of the PMX team introduced Hitari to Bashar to help explain to Hitari what the situation was, to help them understand the situation of the Palestinians. Hitari, during the Eurovision Song Contest, explicitly disobeyed the orders of the organisers and put on a Palestinian scarf while they were being interviewed live on air. This was all as a result of the connection with Bashar. Anyway, Bashar goes on to do collaborations with them, and I have a label. Bashar put things out on my label too. But then the most interesting thing was that last year, Bashar ended up almost being selected by Iceland as their entry for the Eurovision Song Contest. Because in Iceland, you don't actually have to be Icelandic to perform, as long as there's enough Icelanders within the sort of whole team. So he got down to the last two, but he almost kind of became the Palestinian Icelander representing Iceland.
Great.
So that was a whole interesting thing. And then since then, I'm seeing what Bashar is doing, and that gave him that platform. But not just a platform for his career, or not just a platform to talk about being Palestinian, but a platform to be a openly queer Palestinian artist,
And
which is so
person.
yes. So that's an example of something that that's not all down to us, but some of those moments of opportunity were because of the connections that we were able to create for him. There's an amazing artist called Faraj Suleiman who is a kind of experimental pianist, and he found his management at PMX, and he's like now performing all over the world, and really acknowledged in that kind of jazz experimental piano music space. And a band called Zenobia, they got a record deal with a label called Crammed Discs. There's just been a lot of examples of things
That's great.
and I'm a music lawyer, so I've kind of become the free music lawyer for all Palestinian artists. So I've been able to kind of just help. And what we in a way do is we can be sort of allies and supporters in the journey, so that when an opportunity comes and they don't know, well, what is publishing and what does this clause mean, and I'm a bit worried about this. Is this a good thing to do? Is it a bad thing to do? They can reach out. Or maybe they start their own label and they're like, we need some contracts. Sarah, can you help us create a contract for our own label? And you support.
And I think that's the idea of the people that are only in place of four. To use our tools and our knowledge to help this kind of people.
Because I think that's also a very respectful way to do it, isn't it?
Yes.
And for me, that's such an important word in all of this. So respecting it.
Yes.
Your journey, your expression,
Go do it.
Yeah, but let us just help to sort of create a platform or to uplift or to...
We're not going there and colonizing again.
No.
Because that's the way.
Yeah.
That's the wrong way of doing it.
But sometimes interesting opportunities come about, and so I now have a record and publishing company with two of the PMX, the Palestinians on the PMX team. They're based in LA, and we started off releasing quite a lot of Palestinian music, but we've now since started working with some Palestinian artists from the diaspora. But through our so this is a business that's haven't made a lot of money from it yet, maybe one day, but it is a proper business, and so it's a sort of an opportunity for me and my partners as much as it is for the artists. But we've been kind of becoming part of a network of people within the music industry who either have Palestinian roots or who are Palestinian allies. So, for example, there's a show on Netflix at the moment called Mo.
I love Mo.
Yeah, so
I love Mo.
Yeah, it's great. So Levantine Music we have like, I don't know, 5 artists were on the first series, 5 artists were on the second
There's
series.
a lot of Palestinian music on that.
Exactly, and some of that's come from our company. So these things just build on themselves.
Me and
so
my
you
wife,
have no.
we were crazy about Mo last week.
Yeah.
We saw the whole.
I did too.
The whole series.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really good. So
It's really
most
good.
of the Palestinian music.
I would love to
some-
say most of it, but
some.
5 tracks.
That's
Tracks
great.
from us. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so just to go in the uplifting way.
Yeah.
It's your first time in Brazil now?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's my first time in
So
Brazil.
you arrived here yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
First in São Paulo.
Yeah.
And how do you like your first days?
I love it. There's such a fantastic energy here. There's a beautiful openness in everybody that I've met. The energy is lovely. One thing I absolutely love about Brazil, which I also find in Palestine, is that people are very open-minded about music.
Yeah.
Really open-minded. So, you know, in Britain, we have a lot of musical subcultures, which is really interesting on one level, but it's also very narrow because people stick in their subculture and they're kind of very worried about being cool or not, you know, they don't mix and cross-fertilize and...
Yeah, in Brazil, most of people think that some people think we're not mixed, but we're totally blended.
Yeah, yeah. And so I absolutely love it. So for me, this is, you know, not the only time I'm going to be here. I absolutely...
And you know something about Brazilian music. You like Brazilian music.
Well, yes, but I can't, you know, I don't actually, I couldn't name you very... I'm sorry about that. Couldn't name very much. Because to be perfectly honest, I'm sometimes I think I'm a bit of a fraud in the music industry because I like any and all kind of music. I go to see music because somebody's invited me. I randomly choose things to listen to. But I'm sort of interested in the cultural underpinnings as much as I'm interested in the music, in the sounds. You know, I'm interested in the stories and I'm interested in... So I kind of just wander around, but
that's one way to appreciate music as well.
Yeah. But you know, I've had a little taste, and I want some more of Brazilian music.
Yeah, and I really hope that you come here more often.
Yeah.
In events like Cine São Paulo, and I'd really like to thank you to be here, Sarah. To have me in Palestine. I'm glad I'm part of the group of In Place of War. Is one of the things that I'm really proud of it, and to know people like you and to understand how can music change people's life in lots of ways.
Yes. I feel exactly the same way. There's a positive energy that you can tap into and choose to be a part of and just choose to push it out. Yeah. And not only does that do some good, but you have a great time and you meet really amazing people like you. And just have this great network.
Yeah, that's it. And eu acho que é isso. Eu queria agradecer a galera que está aí fazendo esse filme pra gente. Muito legal. Agradecer o pessoal da Cine São Paulo por receber e tratar a música com uma coisa que eu acho que a Sara falou, que é nos temas e querer ter responsabilidade no fazer e no tratar a música. I was telling them that it's great that Cine treats music like in a responsible way, and to bring people like Sarah here to tell about this experience, I think is really important. Trazer gente como a Sarah aqui para falar da experiência dela vinda da advocacia da música e partindo para lidar com termos de conflito, fazer isso agregar e transformar a vida de pessoas, eu acho que é uma coisa muito importante que a gente faz com a música, é isso. Obrigado. Thank you very much.
It's been amazing. Thank you very much.